Today's video is about the main theme of the Book of Wisdom by Osho, which is deeply explained and discussed in this video.
There comes a moment in every thinking person's life when they stop and wonder, what am I really doing here, not in this room or this city or this job, but in this life? That moment may feel like confusion, like emptiness, like a sense that everything you've chased suddenly doesn't matter. But it is not confusion, it is the beginning of clarity. Osho calls this the opening of the inner eye. The moment when all the noise you've collected from the outside world starts to fade, and something deeper begins to stir. It is uncomfortable, yes, because truth always begins where comfort ends. We've been raised on lies, beautiful, polished lies. Lies about success, about morality, about who we're supposed to be. From the moment you are born, they start drawing borders around you. And before you even speak your first word, you're already wearing chains. They tell you how to think, what to believe, what is right, what is wrong, what is possible, what is not. And you follow because to follow feels safe. To question feels dangerous, so you obey silently. You become what they want you to be, not realizing that with every step taken in someone else's direction, you are walking away from your own soul. But the soul does not disappear, it waits, silently, patiently. It does not scream, it whispers. It whispers in moments of stillness, in the middle of a sleepless night, in the silence between two breaths. It says, this is not all there is. There's more. Go deeper. And when you finally begin to listen, truly listen, the world around you may start to shake, because the truth does not support the structure you've built around yourself. It shatters it. It does not patch your wounds, it forces you to see why you've been wounded in the first place, and this is the beginning of wisdom. Osho said, wisdom is not information, it is transformation. You can read 1,000 scriptures, memorize every sacred text, chant every mantra and yet remain asleep. Because words alone do not awaken, experience does, awareness does, courage does, and courage is needed because to awaken means to walk away from the crowd. To stop living a second-hand life. It means dropping every identity that was handed to you by others and asking, who am I when I remove the mask? You see, the ego is nothing but a collection of borrowed ideas. It is a collage made from society's expectations. But the self, the true self, is not a creation. It is a discovery. And that discovery can only happen in silence. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the silence of a quiet mind. A mind that no longer runs in circles trying to impress, prove, or possess. Meditation, as Osho taught, is not about chanting something endlessly. It is not about controlling thoughts or fighting the mind. It is about witnessing, watching, observing without judgment, without resistance. When you watch your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky, something magical happens. You realize, I am not these thoughts. I am the sky. This is the essence of Osho's teaching, not to become someone new, but to uncover who you already are. Enlightenment is not a destination. It is a recognition. You were never lost, only distracted. And the moment you stop chasing, stop resisting, stop pretending you return, you fall back into your center, into your original nature. And this nature is not moral or immoral. It is not bound by dualities. It simply is, alive, aware, present. The awakened being does not live by rules. They live by awareness. Rules are for the unconscious, for those who cannot see. Awareness is for the awakened, because when you see clearly, no one needs to tell you what is right. You act out of understanding, not obligation. The awakened one is not special, they are simply natural. What we call ordinary is actually unnatural. Living in fear, in imitation, in constant tension, this is not how life was meant to be. Look at a tree, a river, a child. They don't try to become anything. They just are. They flow, grow, respond to the moment, and that is the secret of wisdom, not to strive, but to surrender. Surrender does not mean defeat. It means trust, trust in existence, trust in your own being, trust that life knows what it's doing, and that your only task is to be fully present for the unfolding. The mind wants control, the soul wants freedom, and between the two there is always conflict. But when you finally choose the soul, the mind loses its grip. The fear starts to dissolve. You stop asking, what will people think, and start asking, what feels true to me? You stop living from memory and start living from awareness. You stop chasing meaning and start experiencing wonder. The wise one does not carry answers, they carry presence. Their silence speaks louder than most people's sermons. Their joy is not loud, it is still, like a candle flame in the dark, and it illuminates not only their path, but the path of anyone who comes close. This is why Osho said, "Be a light unto yourself," because no one can walk your journey for you. Teachers can point the way, but the steps must be your own. The pain, the risk, the uncertainty, it all belongs to you. But so does the joy, so does the freedom, so does the bliss that comes when you finally stop pretending and start being. But the world doesn't welcome the awakened easily. The crowd feels threatened by anyone who steps out of line, not because that person is wrong, but because they are free. And freedom terrifies those who have become comfortable in their chains. They will call you selfish, rebellious, even dangerous. But what they really mean is, you're no longer controllable, and they're right. Once you taste truth, no lie can satisfy you. Once you feel presence, no possession matters. You become unshakable, not because life stops testing you, but because you no longer depend on outcomes to define your peace. The awakened soul moves through life like a river flowing around rocks, embracing curves, never resisting what is. This is the art of living Osho spoke of, not a life of rigid discipline, but of deep awareness. You don't suppress the mind, you see through it. You don't fight desire, you understand it. And in that understanding, desires lose their grip. Because when you are full inside, nothing outside can tempt you. People chase pleasure because they are running from emptiness. They chase noise because silence terrifies them. But the irony is, what they run from is the only thing that can heal them. Sit in your emptiness, Osho said. Feel it fully. Let it burn through all your distractions. And then, when the fire is over, what remains is real. The real cannot be defined. It cannot be labeled, packaged, or explained. It can only be lived, and once you touch that space, even for a moment, you are never the same again. You may return to the world, play your roles, meet your duties, but now there is a light within. A watcher, a center that was once forgotten and now remembered. This remembrance is the core of meditation. It's not about escaping the world, it's about seeing it clearly without distortion, without reaction. To walk in the marketplace with the silence of a forest in your heart. To look at life not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be lived. And the moment you stop demanding answers, life begins to whisper secrets. Not in words, but in presence. The rustling of leaves becomes a scripture. The gaze of a stranger becomes a teaching. A drop of rain becomes a mirror. When your inner eye opens, everything becomes sacred because everything is connected to the same source. That source is not somewhere far away. It is here, now, in this breath, in this moment. But the mind doesn't know how to live now. It only knows the past and the future. The past is memory. The future is imagination. And you are neither. You are this awareness, watching both come and go like shadows on a wall. And that's the miracle. You don't have to become anything. You just have to be. Osho never said change yourself. He said drop what is not you. And what remains is truth. Truth is not something you find, it's what's left when the false is gone. Let go of comparison. Let go of ambition. Let go of needing to be someone in others' eyes. You are not here to fit into anyone's image. You are here to express your being, your silence, your song, and every time you choose authenticity over approval, you are choosing freedom. But freedom is not easy. It demands responsibility. The unconscious man blames. The awakened man responds. He no longer says, "Why is this happening to me?" He asks, "What is this moment teaching me?" And in that shift, suffering becomes a doorway. Pain becomes a teacher. Even death becomes a friend. Because when you live awake, you no longer fear the end. You've already tasted eternity in this moment. And what dies is not you only, the mask, only the ego, only the noise. The real you cannot die because it was never born. It has always been watching, waiting, witnessing. And when you live from that space, you become a blessing to the world. Not because you're trying to help, but because your very presence heals. Your stillness speaks. Your freedom inspires. You don't lead with words, you lead with being. Osho was not giving answers. He was giving tools to unlearn, to question, to dig deeper. He was not building followers, he was lighting flames. And that fire still burns, not in his words, but in your courage to live them. So stop running, stop pretending. Sit with yourself, not with goals, not with guilt, but with openness, and listen. Beneath all the noise, the drama, the anxiety, there is a silence. It's not empty. It's full of presence, full of clarity, full of life. That silence is who you are. But the world has taught you to fear silence, to fill every gap with noise. Music, news, opinions, endless scrolling, not because these things bring joy, but because they help you avoid that one terrifying encounter, being alone with yourself. Yet only in that aloneness can truth be born. You have tried becoming many things: the good child, the smart student, the successful adult, the spiritual seeker, but all these are roles. Beneath them, something unchanging remains. You don't have to become it. You already are it. You just need to see what you are not and drop it. Drop the image, drop the chase, drop the voice in your head that says, "You're not enough yet, keep running, no, stop, breathe." Look within, not with the eyes of ambition, but with the eyes of awareness. There is nothing missing. There never was. All your life, you were taught to reach out, to search outside, but the treasure you seek has always been inside you. Right here, right now, hidden behind the dust of conditioning. The ego wants complexity. Truth is simple, so simple it can be missed in the noise. That's why Osho called meditation a return to innocence, not the naivety of childhood, but the purity of presence. When you no longer divide the world into right and wrong, sacred and sinful, worthy and unworthy, but simply see. Seeing is enough. In seeing there is healing. In seeing there is freedom. You do not have to fight the darkness. Just light a candle. Even a small flame is enough to reveal the illusion. And once you see that the prison was never locked, you stop begging for the key. You walk out. You walk differently. You speak differently. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're no longer hiding. You've touched the ground of your being. And once you know who you are, you no longer sell yourself for approval. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You are here to shine, not loudly, not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows. One who has returned home, and from that place life becomes a dance. You are no longer the doer. You are the dancer. Existence becomes the music, and each moment is your movement in harmony with the whole. Osho called this surrender not the surrender of defeat, but the surrender of resistance. A flowering, not a falling. When the river surrenders to the ocean, it does not lose itself, it becomes vast, limitless, infinite. That's what happens when you stop clinging to the mind and start flowing with awareness. You realize you were never separate, you were never small, you were simply dreaming, and now you are awake. This awakening is not an event, it's a process. Moment by moment you choose presence. Moment by moment you return to center. Sometimes you'll forget, you'll fall back into patterns. That's okay. That too is part of the path. The awakened one is not someone who never falls, they are simply someone who no longer pretends. Someone who watches their fall with awareness, learns from it, and rises without guilt. This is the beauty of the inner path. There is no punishment, only understanding, no comparison, only uniqueness. No destination, only this moment, deepening endlessly. So stop asking, am I there yet? Instead, ask, am I here now? Because this is where life is happening. This is where truth is alive. Not in your plans, not in your regrets, but in this breath. In this silence, in this mysterious now, be here fully. That is enough. That is wisdom. And when you are truly here, when your awareness rests in the now, something incredible begins to unfold. Life starts revealing itself not as a problem to solve, but as a dance to participate in. You stop dissecting everything, analyzing endlessly. You start feeling, tasting, touching life raw without the filter of judgment. You begin to live with intensity, not the intensity of effort, but of presence. Even sipping tea becomes a meditation. Even walking becomes a prayer, because now you are no longer lost in the mind's constant commentary. You are immersed in the experience itself, and in this immersion, the small things become sacred. The breeze on your skin, the sound of birds in the morning, a glance from a stranger, a tear that rises without reason. Nothing is wasted. Everything is welcome, because you are no longer rushing towards some imaginary finish line. You've stopped running, you've arrived, and in your arrival, life opens its heart to you. But be warned, this awakening will cost you everything that is false. You cannot carry your ego into freedom. You cannot cling to your masks and know your true face. The path to truth is a path of shedding. One layer at a time, you let go. You let go of your past, not because it was bad, but because it is over. You let go of the future, not because it doesn't matter, but because it doesn't exist. You even let go of your idea of who you are, because even that idea is borrowed. And when there's nothing left to hold onto, when you are empty of all definitions, you are free. In that emptiness, joy arises, not pleasure, not excitement, but joy, the quiet bliss of being, the calm ecstasy of one who has nothing to prove, nowhere to go, and yet is fully alive. This joy has no opposite. It is not dependent on any condition. It is the fragrance of presence itself, but the mind will try to return. It will whisper again, plan, control, hurry, and that's okay. Let it whisper. Just don't obey. Watch it. Smile at it like you would at a child throwing a tantrum. You are no longer its slave. You are the watcher now, and this watcher within you, this still, silent awareness, is the most powerful thing in the universe. Because it cannot be manipulated, it cannot be hurt, it simply sees, and through that seeing, everything false begins to dissolve, fear dissolves, jealousy dissolves, the endless craving for validation dissolves. Because the light of awareness reveals that they were never real, just shadows cast by unconsciousness. You no longer need to fight your demons. You just need to shine your light. That's all. No effort. No struggle, just presence. This is Osho's teaching. Not to fight the mind, but to transcend it. Not to conquer the self, but to dissolve the illusion of self. And in that dissolution, a deeper intelligence awaken. An intelligence that does not come from education, but from alignment. Alignment with the rhythm of existence. You begin to live in tune with life, not against it. You begin to trust, not blindly, but with a clarity that comes from seeing deeply. You trust that every experience, pleasant or painful, has something to teach. You trust that even your wounds have wisdom, and you no longer need life to go your way, because you have found peace that does not depend on control. This trust is not passive, it is dynamic. It makes you alert, responsive, open. You are no longer a victim. You are a participant in the great unfolding of life. And when you live this way awake, rooted, surrendered, something radiates from you. Something wordless. Others may not understand it, but they will feel it. Your silence will say more than your words. Your calm will heal more than your advice. Your presence will inspire more than your actions. Because now, you are not trying to be the light, you are the light. And when you become the light, you stop searching for it in others. You no longer need to be completed, fixed, or saved. That very idea dissolves, because now you see there was never anything wrong with you. You were simply asleep, dreaming of separation, dreaming of fear. But now the dream is ending, and it doesn't end in a dramatic explosion. It ends softly, like mist vanishing as the sun rises, the sun of awareness. The gentle fire of your presence, burning away illusions without effort. You don't need to push the darkness out, just be still, and the light within will shine through. This stillness is not inactivity. It is a deep alignment, a rootedness. You may walk, talk, work, laugh, cry, but something inside remains unmoved, a silence beneath all sound, a sky untouched by passing clouds. That silence is your true nature. The ego tries to improve itself endlessly, believing happiness is just one more achievement away. But the awakened being does not chase perfection, they embrace wholeness, including the broken parts, including the doubts, including the shadows, because only when you stop denying any part of yourself can true healing begin. Osho said, accept yourself as you are. That is the most difficult thing in the world, because it goes against your training, your education, your culture. But this acceptance is the key, not resignation acceptance, a loving awareness of what is. From that space, transformation happens naturally, not because you force it, but because truth has a rhythm of its own, and now you're finally listening. Not to your mind's noise, but to the quiet pull of your soul. And your soul is not interested in success. It is not impressed by titles, numbers, praise. It is only interested in one thing: freedom. Freedom to be, freedom to feel, freedom to move with life without pretending, without apologizing, without hiding. This freedom is not given, it is claimed, and to claim it you must stop asking for permission. From society, from religion, from your past. You must stand alone, not against the world, but for your truth. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Because when you no longer conform, the crowd will question you. Some will criticize, some will mock, some will walk away. Let them. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be real, and in your realness, a different kind of connection becomes possible, no longer based on roles or expectations, but on presence, on shared silence, on the meeting of two beings who are not trying to fix or change each other, but simply see. That seeing is love, not the love of dependency or desire, but the love of recognition, of resonance, of meeting another in truth, and even if no one else sees you, you will see yourself. You will know who you are, not in words, not as a concept, but as a living flame, a breath, a mystery. And you will bow to life, not out of submission, but out of reverence, because now you see the divine not in temples or scriptures, but in the ordinary, in the wind through trees, in the laughter of a child. In your own heartbeat, everything becomes sacred when you are present. That is the gift of awakening, not a change in the world, but a change in the way you see. And when your seeing changes, everything changes. And in that shift of vision, the world becomes your mirror. Every person, every situation, every challenge a reflection of something inside you, waiting to be seen. You no longer react blindly, you observe. You feel deeply, but you don't drown. You suffer, but you don't cling to the suffering. You celebrate, but you don't lose yourself in pleasure. You remain centered. This centering is not rigidity. It is fluid, like a dancer who has found their balance. No matter how wild the music, they move with grace. That is the way of the awakened one, not unmoved by life, but deeply moved without being lost. The old you may have tried to control life, to bend it to your will. But the awakened you flows with it, trusts it, understands that existence is far wiser than any plan you could design, and when you surrender control, life begins to support you in ways the mind could never imagine. Osho often reminded us, life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived, and mysteries are not meant to be figured out. They are meant to be felt, entered, surrendered to. That is the path of wisdom. Not gathering knowledge, but dropping what blocks you from seeing clearly. Not becoming someone, but unbecoming all that is false. And in that unlearning, you discover a lightness, a freedom you may have glimpsed as a child before the conditioning, before the rules, before the masks. You remember how to laugh without reason, how to love without fear, how to live without calculating. The mind says, be careful, be prepared. The soul whispers, just be. And when you follow that whisper, a different kind of life opens up. One that is not always easy, but always true. You stop sacrificing the present for some imagined future. You stop postponing joy. You stop waiting to live, and you begin now. This now is all there is. And it is enough. The awakened one knows this not as theory, but as lived reality. That joy is not something to be achieved. It is something to be remembered. It is your natural state, hidden only by layers of thought, fear, and desire. And as you peel away those layers, you do not become something new, you return to who you've always been. This return is the essence of meditation, not concentration, not effort, just presence, just being. Watching the breath, watching the thoughts, watching the watcher, slowly, gently, the watcher deepens. The thoughts become less loud, the gaps become wider, and in those gaps a fragrance arises, the fragrance of your being. No technique can give you this, no teacher can transfer it to you. They can only point. The walk is yours, but you are not alone. Every step you take in truth is supported by existence. Every moment of silence echoes through eternity. And even when you fall back into unconsciousness, the seed has been planted, the flame has been lit, and sooner or later it will burn through all that is false, until only love remains, not a love of attachment, but a love that simply is like the sun shining, expecting nothing in return. Like a flower blooming, whether anyone notices or not, this is the fragrance of the awakened soul, effortless, radiant, free, and when love becomes your nature, not your need, everything changes, you no longer grasp. You no longer beg for affection, for attention, for belonging. You realize you are love itself, not the emotion, not the romance, but the essence, the force that binds all things without holding onto anything. And from that space, your relationships transform, no longer based on fear or lack, but on freedom. You stop asking, "What can I get from you?" and begin to wonder, "How can we be free together?" Not bound by expectation, not imprisoned by roles, but meeting in presence, again and again, without clinging. This is the rarest kind of intimacy, where two beings are alone, yet together, where silence is not awkward, but sacred. Where the connection does not feed the ego, but dissolves it. Only a person who has become whole can relate in this way. Until then, love will be tainted by fear, the fear of being alone, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of not being enough. But once you have tasted your own being, once you have fallen in love with the silence within you, then even your aloneness becomes a celebration, and strangely, that's when you become capable of true togetherness. Because now, you are not a beggar, you are a giver, not because you have to give, but because your cup overflows. Osho said, "If you love a flower, don't pick it, because if you pick it, it dies, and it ceases to be what you love." Real love allows. Real love gives space. Real love trusts the flow. And when you live this way, rooted in being, flowing in love, life becomes a meditation. Not something separate you do for 20 minutes a day, but something that permeates everything. Brushing your teeth, driving your car, washing dishes, speaking to a stranger, all of it becomes a doorway, because now you are not doing, you are being, and that being transforms everything, even your suffering. Yes, even pain becomes a teacher. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this trying to show me?" And in that shift, pain becomes sacred. Not because it is desirable, but because it becomes transparent. You no longer get lost in it. You witness it. You learn from it. You outgrow it. You are no longer a victim of life. You become a disciple of life, learning in every moment, growing through every season. Trusting that nothing is meaningless, nothing is wasted, because the awakened one knows existence is intelligent, far more intelligent than the human mind. It weaves your life with precision, with purpose. And the more you align with it, the more you see the hidden order behind what once felt like chaos. You begin to live in synchronicity. Moments begin to feel guided. Encounters feel destined. You don't force things, you flow into them. And even your choices are no longer reactive, but intuitive. This is the flowering of awareness, not perfection, not control, but a deep, relaxed attunement with what is. And it brings a peace that cannot be shaken, not because the storms stop coming, but because you are no longer afraid of being wet.